Hello everybody, this is Stuart Harrison and I am a watchman and seer of the Most High Creator, Father, Son and Holy Spirit. Revelations chapter 9 and the mysterious 200 million Locust Army and what exactly it is. This is not information from intellectual or scholarly musings, but from having it unlocked to me via direct communion with our Creator. As I have said in previous videos, some Bible chapters and verses have partner sections associated with them. One section will describe what occurs in the spirit dimension, as its partner section describes the physical results from what has just happened in the spirit realm. And as there is no time in the spirit realm, our physical world events can be used like a clock. For instance, the fifth angel blowing his trumpet in Revelations chapter 9 verse 1 not only signals the end of the war in the heavens and the Red Horseman's war on the saints, but the beginning of the Black Horseman events. Wormwood, the pole shift, and the 200 million Locust Army being released. To fully understand what this Locust Army is, we have to use all Bible sections associated with them. These Bible sections are Revelation chapter 8's Wormwood, Revelation chapter 9's 200 million Locust Army, and the book of Joel, chapters 1 and 2. All three are telling us of the same subject. This great war in the heavens from Revelations 12 verse 7 then is what causes the events of chapter 8's Wormwood, which then allows chapter 9's 200 million Locust Army to come upon the earth. So the so-called Northern Army is not our Earth's compass north, but north as in straight up in the heavens and space. All articles or videos I have seen are seemingly obsessed with the idea that it is Wormwood's impact that cracks open the earth and opens the bottomless pit, which so many think is our inner earth and hell. This is a huge mistake, and it has misled all who think along those lines. The abyss is the bottomless pit, and both of them are what we call space. For this video, I'm going to focus on chapter 9, and this will be the world's first ever video, apart from the article I wrote many years ago, revealing exactly what this mysterious locust and scorpion army really is. It took around 15 years to unlock this puzzle, with the final piece coming in March 2021, ending with an incredible visionary experience. It will be very useful to anyone viewing this video to have chapter 9 in front of them. I use the KJV, especially with Revelation, because anyone reads, for instance, the New International Version, things get even harder to decipher as the language is even further from the source, if you like. So if the viewer does not have the King James Version, I suggest using the online Blue Letter Bible. An excellent resource. Ever since this was written down, scholars have tried to understand this and been confused about the language style used. Most scholars have thought the language to be the symbology or metaphor. It is neither of these. The Creator had John write this as he saw it, and it was written in the only perfect language style that would allow anyone who could read in the entire world to have the same chance to understand it. The imagery both the prophets John and Joel saw was written in picture language, the only true fair language. I will first read out Revelations chapter 9 verses 1 to 10 and then give a step-by-step breakdown. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and air were darkened by reason of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. Revelations chapter 9 verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the keys of the bottomless pit. The star that falls from heaven is Wormwood, and the phrase was given the key means to cause to come forth. So the key to the bottomless pit is actually Wormwood coming down to earth. The words the key denotes the power, authority, or simply the ability to open things. The war in the heavens causes Wormwood to come crashing into earth, which in turn allows chapter 9's Locust Army to happen. This is the Black Horseman events of Revelations chapter 6 verses 5 and 6, and also chapter 12. So, it is the war in the heavens that causes Wormwood to crash into us. This also breaks down the veil between our dimensions, allowing Revelations chapter 12 verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into earth, and his angels were cast out with him. As if the war on the saints was not bad enough, we also have a pole flip, which will be a result of Wormwood's impact. After all, it is large enough for impact that it wipes out 1/3 of all shipping in the world. The Creator allowed me to experience the pole flip firsthand one day, and I still don't know if it was another vision or him taking me forward in time. I saw the stars and clouds all picking up speed and start to race across the heavens as the planet began to spin, and I had to grab onto a wall to stay standing. Soon after, I could see the result of the Earth flipping on its axis. I saw a truly huge wall of greyish-white colour that was so high it was pushing and collecting clouds as it closed distance towards me. It was a truly huge tsunami coming from the east of the UK that was going to put the entirety of the UK underwater. This is Revelations 6:14. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. This pole flip event is when the veil between our physical world and the fourth dimension, also known as the kingdom of darkness, will be lifted. The word apocalypse means the lifting of the veil. Ever since learning about the pole flip, I have wondered whether or not our planet's magnetics being altered was the cause of the veil collapsing. I don't know. Maybe some scientist out there can talk about that. I also had another vision of what occurs during this pole flip, which will cause a covering the Earth in temporary darkness. The Earth will rotate for 3 days one direction and settle on the 4th. Then it will flip again in the other direction for another 3 days. This 7-day period of darkness will be deadly to go outside in. Myself and others have had visions of this 7-day period of darkness, and creatures from the kingdom of darkness, much like pterosaurs, flying reptiles, will be here from another dimension and be drawn to any lights like moths and snatching people up into the darkness like both the Riddick and King Kong Islander movie and tear them limb from limb to eat them. For anyone still alive during that time, make sure you're not using light sources that can start fires when the earth wobbles. The last thing people will want is house fires that draw attention. Sounds bizarre, I know, but nothing will be normal then. Revelations 9:2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. This verse tells us of a massive amount of smoke and debris from Wormwood darkening the sun and moon, and then the impact of Wormwood creating masses of smoke that darkens our atmosphere. Verse 3. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. Most have written or said that these locusts come out of the pit, and therefore must be some kind of hellish creature, due to their theory that the earth is cracked open. It does not say that the locusts come out of the pit, but that they came out of the smoke. The words "there came out of" means it was born because of, it was started because of, and it began because of. The 200 million strong army of locusts are not demonic entities that arise out of a cracked earth at all. They are physical beings that issue forth from the smoke and debris of Wormwood. Chapter 9's army of locusts are released from Wormwood after it arrives here. The phrase, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power, means that the locusts are very powerful and deadly beings that are here to kill. Verse 4. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. The locust army might be thought of as part of the devil's forces, but they are here to fulfill the Creator's will. Therefore, they are only given permission to hurt everyone they come across who is not part of a group of 144,000 witnesses that remain on earth until Yahushua's return. There are two groups of 144,000, with the other being the elect. The man-child from Revelations 12:5 that is caught up unto God and to his throne. That small group called the elect are the only ones taken up to safety, redeemed, or raptured. That, however, is another subject entirely, and caught up to God. That caught up to God event occurs as Wormwood comes crashing in. It was the flood waters that lifted up the ark. I have another article just on that. So the reason the Locust Army don't hurt any green thing is because their targets are all people and their residences to get at those people. Verse 5. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but they should torment for 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And this bit, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, is still talking of the second group of 144,000 witnesses with the seal of God in their foreheads, while the rest of the verse is talking about the third of mankind who will still be killed by the locusts during a 5-month period. Verse 6. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. This verse talks of the remaining 2/3 of mankind that will not be killed by the Locust Army. People seeing all that is happening in the world will be in such shock and terror that many of them will attempt suicide. But because now the third and fourth dimensions have been blended together with the collapsing of the veil, the curtain between our two dimensions, that they will be unable to do such things. This 3.5-year period of time called the Black Horseman will be truly horrific, because as the dimensional veil is now gone, every single entity belonging to the kingdom of darkness will now be on earth, unable to hide from mankind, and not really wanting to anyway, as it is now their time. So people will see every monstrosity from the kingdom of darkness. They will be hunting people for food, killing and destroying openly. Reference the Dust of the Earth video if you want to know why. The darker atmosphere will make it more favourable conditions for all these entities, as they hate sunlight. Now the part of Revelations that a lot of people really want to know, the true and full identity of the Locust Army. Verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. The shapes of the locusts tell us that there will be a variety in the locust's appearance. Were like unto horses prepared unto battle tells us that the locust armies will be gathered together like a truly massive herd and be completely prepared for battle, well equipped for their task. And on their heads means that their leaders will actually be wearing woven wreath-like crowns denoting their rank. And their faces were as the faces of men simply means that they will look just like us, except in that verse 8, they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. They do not cut their hair, and they will have massive teeth, meaning that they will be using their teeth to kill. Verse 9. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. The frontal breastplates, similar to iron, and later fire, denotes a frontal attack, and the sound of their wings is the sound of their movement or flight. So they don't actually have wings, but it's just their movement will be heard for miles around. Verse 10. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. The tails are not real tails like animals have. It is the thing that they bring behind them wherever they go. It has nothing to do with actual tails or stinging anything with poison. I'll talk more on this later. Verse 11. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Abaddon, or Apollyon, often mistakenly just called Apollyon. But if you look at the Blue Letter Bible and the phonetic pronunciation, it is actually Apollyon. Is a fallen angelic leader who brings destruction wherever he goes. Literally, the angel of destruction. Revelations 9:16 onwards goes into more detail about the forces of the locusts. Verse 17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and of jacinth, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. The reason horses are referenced is because John was given the vision from miles above, looking down on them as they gathered, just like a massive herd of horses being led from the front by their leaders, much like a stallion leading a herd. Breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone denotes this. It is a frontal breastplate that denotes that means of attack will be frontal, and just like fire does, they will consume every person they come across. So that's why the imagery of a breastplate of fire, breastplate being a frontal, fire being the thing that destroys, consumes. Okay? And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So the appearance with their long hair will make them look like male lions with their manes. The older they are, the bigger they are, and the longer their hair will be. And out of their mouths issued fire means that the mouths are what they destroy with via eating and consuming everything they catch. Verse 18 and 19. By these three were a third part of men killed, by the fire, by the smoke, by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths, for the power is in their mouth. This army will destroy a third of mankind by eating them. I still did not know exactly what they were until Yahushua said to me in an audible voice, they ate everything in their path. And that was the big clue that led me to the final conclusion. They ate everything in their path. And in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. This section was for me the last piece of the puzzle. It was around this 15-year point into this project that the Creator did something amazing with me. I have concluded that there was no way I could grasp this section, as the scorpion parts remained a hidden mystery. It sounds like these creatures were also stinging or injecting with something. The way the Creator revealed the truth of this was so amazing that I wrote another entire article on this alone. I will talk of this in a moment. Verse 20. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. So even though all of this horror is upon the world, we still have the remainder of mankind not changing their ways. People will still be carrying on with their idol worship, Christmas trees, and paying homage to false gods with their traditions. Mainly, I think, due to the fact that now all but the 144,000 witnesses who would actually know Bible prophecies were dead. Killed off mainly by the events of the Red Horseman. So all of the other false religious practices that were still being clung to as if their traditions and rituals could still help them. So now we come to the real identity of what exactly the 200 million Locust Army is. Giants. Nephilim giants. That's right, you heard right. They are a returning 200 million strong army of what we might think of as ancient biblical giants. Giants in various stages of growth and size, and all very, very hungry. How can this be, some might ask? Well, this is another great mystery, and let's not forget, some of them also came back after the flood. But due to Earth's atmospherics now changing, because it was different before the flood, there was higher pressure, air pressure, and far more favourable conditions for things to grow really large. So post-flood, things could no longer grow so huge. Hence the Nephilim, such as Goliath, being here at all, when a lot of scholars think they should have all been wiped out in the flood. Why weren't they all wiped out in the flood? They obviously came back afterwards. This is because, and this is it, this information I'm going to tell you now, you'll never find it written down. But this is the power of communing with the Creator and Him giving you visions and words of knowledge. Because this information that I'm about to tell you now can only come from Him. So why did the giants come back after the flood? And why are they coming back in the future in a 200 million army? This is because as the flood waters began, the giants' parents, the Watchers, fallen angels, raced around in their flying craft and scooped up as many of their children as they could, but only the younger and therefore smaller ones that could actually fit into their flying craft. Most of them were placed on the planet Rahab, nowadays more known as Nibiru, purely because of Sumerian texts and all the videos made on it. Because at that time it was close to Earth. In fact, the Creator may well have used this other planet, bringing it close by, to make use of its gravitational and magnetic effects to actually cause the original pole flip and bring on the flood waters. It was during this massive upheaval of our planet that the continents broke up and mountains were formed. Also, when the account of the flood is read closely, we read that only all life on the surface was destroyed. Some of the smaller giants were able to seek sanctuary under the Earth's surface. The rescued younger and smaller giants that were placed on this other planet called Rahab, or Nibiru, for the last 6,000 years plus, have been breeding to the point where there is now 200 million of them. Wormwood will be a large chunk that breaks off from Rahab during the war in the heavens. Now into what I call, called in another article, the final piece of the Locust and Scorpion puzzle. One part of the mystery was left, and so I was praying specifically about these two verses. Revelations 9:10. They had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And this verse, Revelations 9:19, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them do they hurt. That night, it was mind-blowing. That night, the Creator gave me a powerful vision. Father took my spirit body, and just like the prophet John in Revelations 4:1, come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. The Creator took my spirit body way above the scene of the giants, so I was looking down upon the mass of them. He knew that the only possible way I could understand these verses was to see it for myself. I just had to see it from the same perspective that the prophet John did all those years ago. Now, in previous articles, I had already known that the giants would be led by the largest giants at the front. As the rest followed, the giants would get younger and smaller all the way to the rear. What I was shown by being high enough in the sky to see them all was that when the giants travelled together, they looked like a truly massive herd of horses being led by a stallion, like a herd of 200 million. Incredible sight. However, whenever they came near to populated areas such as cities, the giants would then break off into long lines of military files and columns. The largest would be the many heads of these long lines, and so all marching in serpent-like groups of single files. So when looking down on them, they would take on the appearance of giant snake-like columns, and just like snakes, the head would be the thickest part and deadliest part, gradually thinning out right down to the tail. This also denotes that the largest were the highest in rank and be the ones that got to eat first. These long lines would swing and curl as the tail keeps up with the head, and therefore takes on the appearance of a scorpion's tail that curls and moves around left, right, up and down. Scorpions have that sort of curl on the end, and as the scorpions run along, their tails can move around and flip left, right, up and down. That's what it means by the locusts having tails of scorpions. So when we read in Revelations 9:19, we can see that the sting in their tails, and for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt, were the long line of giants, all using their mouths to destroy with. They hurt with their heads, right down to the smaller ones at the rear or tail end. Yet another, this is an incredible vision. Yet although being shown such a fearful sight, tears of joy came to me upon completion of this vision, as I felt so privileged that he would show a mere speck of dust upon this earth such things. The reason the giants are referred to as locusts is because, just like locusts, they come flying in, and then when they land, they eat everything in their path. So that's Revelation chapter 9, and what all that means. So, but now, to confirm all of that, I'm going to tell you about Wormwood and Joel chapters 1 and 2. So starting in Revelations 8 and verse 7, the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. This is the first of a 3-part catastrophe to befall the earth. It is the rain of meteorites and debris that goes before Wormwood as it comes crashing down to earth. So whichever third part of the earth is facing them when they arrive, it will be severely pounded and scorched, the result of which is devastatingly obvious. Revelations 8 and 9. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. Remember that the phrase "as it were" is the same as today's "it was just like," or "it was just as if." So this is the second part of the Wormwood's effect. A huge chunk of another planet that is just like a mountain impacting an ocean. Hence the massive tidal waves that will sweep over huge land masses, effectively washing those areas of all life. This is why it makes mention of a third of all ships being destroyed. Revelations 8:10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, just like a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. This is the verse that is easy to slip up on. It sounds like Wormwood is spoken of twice, which would of course be wrong, and we would not have two different angels sounding the same event or object. Actually, it is a great burning spacecraft that belongs to what is known as the Ashtar Command, or some people refer to it as the Galactic Federation. They have a giant spacecraft, and as the war in the heavens has just happened, they are also cast down to Earth. So actually, it is a great burning spacecraft that belongs to what is known as the Ashtar Command or Galactic Federation, a fallen angelic giant mothership that is cast down to Earth after being set alight during the war in the heavens. And so we come to the famous Wormwood. Ever since that word was written down, it has eluded mankind as to its true meaning. Now at last we can fully understand, due to our Heavenly Father passing on clues, and here a little, there a little. Now its time of understanding has come at last. The word wormwood is mentioned 8 times in the Bible. Deuteronomy 29:18, Proverbs 5:4, Jeremiah 9:15 and 23:15, Lamentations 3:15 and 3:19, Amos 5:7, and of course Revelations 8 verse 11. The first 7 is number 3939 in the concordance, and it is a metaphor for bitterness. In Revelations chapter 8 verse 11, however, it is the number 894 in the concordance, meaning the name of a star which fell into the waters and made them bitter. The second time wormwood is used in verse 11 describes the actual bitterness caused by and due to its association with the above. The enormity of this revealing is not lost on those of us who have searched for its meaning throughout their lives. Here it is at last, and all honour, glory and praise goes to our Heavenly Father, 1 in 3 and 3 in 1. To fully understand wormwood, we need to know exactly what Joel chapter 2 is talking about. I was given to write an article called The Shared Visions of the Prophets John and Joel. Here is a section of that Joel 2 that tells us all about the locusts and why the giants are also nicknamed worms. This is because the biggest clue that so many Bible scholars have missed. The prophet John was shown the same vision as the prophet Joel. However, they differ in description purely due to the fact that John saw his vision from way above, whilst Joel was shown his vision of the Locust Army from a ground level perspective. Joel 2:2. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong. There has never ever been the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. This talks of the same event as Wormwood comes crashing in, darkening our atmosphere, and the arrival of the giants. Joel 2 verses 3 to 11. For those who haven't got the book in front of them. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and of horsemen, and so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots, on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Before their face the people shall be much pained, all faces shall gather blackness. They shall run like mighty men, they shall climb upon the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one in his ways, and they shall not break their ranks, neither shall one thrust another, they shall walk every one his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. They shall run to and fro in the city, they shall run upon the wall, they shall climb upon the houses, they shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them, the heavens shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, and the Lord shall utter his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For he is strong that executeth his word, for the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it? So, the same giants as in Revelation chapter 9. The fire devouring everything before them, the horses, the sound of the massive herd of heavy beings running, a strong people, as in they look like men, and the terror of people seeing them coming. Mighty men, which has always been a biblical reference to giants, and keeping military discipline, not fighting among themselves, unable to die, just like the people that try and commit suicide, climbing around cities and residences, reaching through openings to grab people out from them like thieves, making the earth tremble with the weight of their movement, the darkness and gloom of the earth from all the carnage of Wormwood. And here is proof that it is indeed the Lord's army, as it is his camp, for the day of the Lord is terrible. This army is a judgment upon all those that slaughtered his people during the Red Horseman events, the War on the Saints. This is their payback. In fact, it's so terrible that this is the reason why God allows the slaughtering of Christians and all those who believe in him and all who hold to their faith, even in front of the guillotines of the Red Horseman events. Even unto death they keep their faith, because many won't. So in Joel 2:20, the Lord, after the giants' 5 months of killing, removes them to Megiddo, ready and placed for the battle of Armageddon. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face towards the east sea, and his hinder part towards the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savour shall come up, because he hath done great things. So after 5 months of eating people, a third of mankind, the Lord himself removes them to this area, which is facing the East Sea, and in the back behind them the utmost sea. Now if you look at a map, you've got the Sea of Galilee, and then you've got the Mediterranean, and then in the middle Megiddo, all ready for this final battle. Now we can go back to Joel chapter 1 verse 4. That which the palmer worm hath left hath the locust eaten, and that which the locust has left hath the cankerworm eaten, and that which the cankerworm hath left hath the caterpillar eaten. The word for locust, number 697 in the concordance, is arbe, which means a kind of locust, a locust swarm and its activity. A locust is a fully grown or adult locust. A cankerworm is a middle-aged locust. A caterpillar is a youthful locust that is not yet winged, much like us in our 20s. A palmer worm is a creeping locust without wings. This is the youngest and therefore smallest of giants, teenagers and children. So as you can imagine, the serpent head, the oldest and largest, most powerful, highest ranking giants at the front, they get to eat first. And then as you come down the tail of the serpent, all the way behind them, everything that is passed down, what the front one doesn't eat, the next one eats. The next one passes on what he doesn't eat, and so on, all the way down to the end. So we can see this describes the worms prophesied in Joel chapter 1 verse 4. Wormwood is also a nickname, a picture language nickname for this massive chunk of Rahab or Nibiru that separates from the main body of the planet with the express purpose of carrying the giants to Earth. Think of woodworm and how the worms live within the wood itself and burrow along the surface. Now we can see how the name Wormwood came about, with Nibiru being the wood and the giants being the worms. Joel 1, 6-7. For a nation is come upon my land, strong and without number. Now it's so 200 million. You're not going to be able to count 200 million. So from a ground level perspective of Joel seeing it, you couldn't count them. They're so massive you couldn't count them. It's impossible. But from above, different scene. For a nation has come upon my land, strong and without number, whose teeth are the teeth of a lion, and he hath the cheek teeth of a great lion. He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. This has been a mystery for a long time as well. So this should also be the first ever truthful telling of what this really means. This talks of the massive amount of giants and their horrendous mouths full of huge and double rows of teeth. This is the gross bit. He hath laid my vine waste, and barked my fig tree. He hath made it clean bare, and cast it away, and branches thereof are made white. Tree is a name often used in the Bible as a metaphor for people. Using trees, therefore, we can see that this picture language again for how when the giants eat people, it will be like the bark being stripped off from a tree, and the branches revealing the fresh white of the tree under the bark, or people's flesh being stripped from their bones, revealing the white bones, the fresh white bones underneath the flesh. Barked my fig tree is the trunks or torso, and the branches being limbs, all stripped of its flesh and being eaten like a meat popsicle. Also interesting is Amos chapter 4 verse 9. I have smitten you with blasting and mildew, when your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increased. The palmer worm devoured them, yet have ye not returned unto me, said the Lord. That's just like, even though the people are being devoured and they're the only ones left in the earth, trying to commit suicide, trying to kill themselves and their families, they can't do it. And it's still refusing to return to the Lord, one true God, and Yahushua, his Messiah. It sounds very much like, even though your population has increased and the giants have eaten your people, you still refuse to return to the Lord Yahushua or Jesus. So there we have it. Yah bless the truth seekers. This is Stuart Harrison, Watchman X, and seer of the Most High Creator, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Thank you for watching and listening, and please pass this message on. Thank you.